What's going on, everybody? This is Tyler Weeb from ProPhysique, and today we're going to talk about training recommendations. Alright, welcome back, everybody. I hope you are all having a fantastic week. Doing it is whatever you do. I'm taking off for Tampa tomorrow morning, so I'm pretty excited about that. Gonna go hang out with the ProPhysique family for a full week down there. Just gonna be a lot of fun. Hopefully get some good content for you guys. Yeah, just get to hang out with everybody, you know, being all the way up in the Pacific Northwest. A little bit on an island sometimes, so it's always good to get together and see everyone. And yeah, should be a really good week. But today I wanted to talk about a pretty broad topic, and it's going to be in somewhat broad strokes just because of the nature of the topic. And when I put out, last week or whatever, for ideas for my YouTube videos, I got a few requests on different training questions. One was about pyramid sets. Another was about the minimum of volume needed to maintain strength and muscle. And then there was a couple others. And so I kind of just wanted to put them together a little bit and kind of just cover training as a whole in today's video. Now, these are going to be all recommendations because that's kind of just what we have at this point with where the data is at and where it's being studied. We have guidelines, but we don't know everything, and that's just kind of where we are at right now. So, training volume, at least we do know, seems to be the indicator for making progress kind of throughout your life in the gym and kind of be the king of strength and hypertrophy. Now, that certainly isn't the only thing that we can manipulate. We can manipulate frequency and intensity, and those can play huge roles. But typically, we do look at volume as we are progressing. And now someone who is just starting off compared to someone who's been training for 10 years, it's going to look completely different. And even then, we don't have hard guidelines of what it should look like, because every single person is completely different in terms of how they react to the amount of volume that they are doing. So take someone for me, for example, and let's just take my legs. I am doing about 60 sets a week for my legs. That's a lot, right? The typical recommendation, and this is according to Eric Helms' Strength Pyramid training book, fantastic book, would definitely recommend if you want to just learn more into this. It kind of covers everything in this book, but is 10 to 20 sets per week per muscle group. So you can see where the individual really comes into play here in terms of that. Like, I am nowhere near close to that. Like, I would make zero progress on the recommended max amount of sets per muscle group with the 20, where I'm doing 60 sets, and that's where I'm making progress. So that's someone like me. Take someone like Jeff Alberts from 3DMJ. I don't know what his exact volume is, but he's known of getting by with very little volume. He can continue to progress on not, probably the amount that I am doing. So everyone is a little bit different. So when it comes to volume recommendations, you kind of start maybe on the lower end. Let's take the 10 to 20 sets. Let's take someone and they're going, I've been training for 1 year. All right. Well, depending on the type of training they're doing, of course, like if they're doing, something like Orange Theory or, some type of boot camp, well, we would consider them a novice. They haven't done any strength training whatsoever. Now, if they have some experience with strength training, then that moves us along the continuum of, okay, how much volume are we going to go with? And you can kind of maybe start, let's say, okay, you know what? Let's start at roughly 20 sets per muscle group, depending on, back and forth. Like, so you can change that. So something like legs might need a little more than, say, something like arms. So you could start off, okay, let's start off legs at, let's say, 20 sets for the week. And arms, okay, maybe let's just start off with 10 sets. And then you go from there. You monitor your fatigue levels, you monitor your recovery, you monitor your strength progress in the gym, and that can kind of tell you and give you an idea of where you are at. Do you respond better to maybe some higher volume? Do you respond better to some higher intensity, lower intensity? And so there are things that are going to cause that to change and kind of come across the spectrum. And so to give recommendations on the minimum amount of volume that you need to maintain strength or hypertrophy, that's going to be very hard to give because each individual is going to be different. I would say to maintain strength, intensity is going to be a lot more important than volume for maintaining that, right? Because strength is more of an intensity technique. You're not going to do a tons of volume at 80% plus of your 1 rep max, right? Now with hypertrophy, again, there's a volume / intensity relationship there that does need to be figured out. You don't want to drop, all of your volume to the point where, maybe you're only doing, 5 sets per muscle group a week, right? You're probably not going to maintain muscle on that. But sometimes during life, we do need to kind of have that push-pull, and we need to bring things down. And so what I would say is cut it down incrementally, still train hard, because that's going to play a huge role. Say you're doing those 60 sets on your legs per week. Maybe just drop it down to 45, 50. See what happens. You probably are going to lose a little bit of muscle just because you're not doing as much. But you should be able to have some relative maintenance going on there. So for strength, I would more focus on the intensity because strength can be quite a neurological adaptation skill where, if you've never really done a 1 rep max before, you're going to suck at doing a 1 rep max if you just jump into it. But you can train your neurological system to go to a point where testing a 1 rep max feels really good and very smooth. So we are kind of across the spectrum here. Now, in terms of volume and let's say the pyramid sets, that was another question because I know that is something that is seen quite a bit in a good bro workout. You've got your pyramid sets where you're either working up, working down, whatever. Is not maybe necessarily something that I would fully recommend for the majority of people, but it does have its benefits and it can be another tool that you can use in your toolbox when it comes to planning your training. The one problem potentially with pyramid sets is the decrease in overall volume from that set. If you are kind of working your way up, you're probably having to drop your weight down, or if you're working your way down, maybe the weight is coming up. But if you look on it across the spectrum, look at how much volume we're doing. Sets times reps times weight, right? If we're doing a 10, 8, 6, 7, or whatever, or, something along those lines, and maybe we're not resting long enough, anything like that, fatigue is starting to set in, the total volume of that lift might go down. Whereas if you just do a straight set of, let's say, 3x10, and you can do 100 pounds each set, well, there is that potential for there to be more overall volume for that set. Now, if you're doing like a giant set where you're going like 20, 15, 12, 10, 10 drop set, well, yes, that's probably going to be, a bit more volume, and there could be some more benefit to going to fatigue on something like that. But I would say it's not something that you want to do all the time. I would throw that in at the end of a workout for something like leg extensions. Can be a great thing to do a pyramid set on, drop set on, giant set on, something like that where it's a different intensity technique and you are going to a bit more failure. So as you can see, there's a lot that encompasses training, training volume recommendations, training intensity recommendations, like what are your goals? I mean, if you just want to get strong as shit, well, you're probably going to put a lot more energy into, like, say, your squat. You're going to do that maybe 2-3 times a week, depending on your training age, and the intensities are going to be different. And you're not going to, put a lot of effort into your hypertrophy work. But if you're a bodybuilder, well, then you need to train like a bodybuilder, and you're not going to be too worried about how strong you are. The strength is still important. It's still going to transfer over into your hypertrophy, but we want to make sure that we're saving our energy for our hypertrophy work because the goal is to be as big as possible, not as strong as possible when you're on the bodybuilding stage. Powerlifting is different. So it's a very broad topic with a lot of broad recommendations. We have some guidelines that do help us with training, but a lot of it is just kind of tweaking it to the individual, getting feedback from the individual, how they're feeling, how they're recovering, exercises they like, exercises they don't like, and anatomy, what's going to be best for this person's limb length, stuff like that. So there's a lot of factors that do go into it, and so I wish this could be more of a hard line, this is what you need to do, this is the rule, that's the rule, and then do this and you're going to be good to go. But unfortunately, us humans, we are not built like that. Everyone's a little bit different. Everyone's going to respond a little bit different. So take those guidelines, kind of start with there, and then expand from there as you learn more about yourself, your body, how you respond. Keep notes, take notes, have a training journal. That can be huge help for helping you track everything, tracking your volume, tracking your intensity, your progress, everything like that can be massive. Don't go from 0 to 100. You always want to do as little as possible while you're making progress. So if you can make progress on 20 sets a week on whatever body part and you're making progress, stay there. Don't go from 20 to 40. Because then now you're just going to overtrain potentially. The body's going to adapt to 40, and then the next time, now you're going to go to 50. So do it in small increments. Add sets here or there. Add exercises here and there after a deload week or something like that when you're kind of rebounding out of that and you've recovered. And just make sure that you're recovering well. If you find that you're just not recovering after workouts, despite getting 8+ hours of sleep, water, all of those other things, well, it might be a little too much for you. So minus a few sets. Okay, see how that feels. Does that feel better? Yeah, it feels great. I'm recovering, making progress, strength is going through the roof. All right, we've kind of found where we want to be then. Let's squeeze as much as we can out of this. All right, guys, I could probably keep on talking, but we're gonna end it there. So yeah, as you can see, training, very broad topic. We've got guidelines. We don't know everything, but we do the best that we can with what we have. Okay guys, that's gonna be everything. If you would like to see any future videos answered on this YouTube channel, go ahead and just go over to my Instagram, shoot me a DM. Would love to hear from you, any questions that you might have that you would like to know about. So have a great rest of your day, guys, and we'll chat soon.